Hey guys, day 55 of the devlog, and we're going to have a look at a few things today, but what we're going to do is finish off this first, because this is quite a simple one, and this is for the spawner volume. We have a minimum number of monsters and maximum number of monsters, and then we're going to have a monster types. Okay, and I created a base. Hey Black Panda, how you doing, bud? We're going to say base monster. Okay, I've created a base class. It is basically an empty class, but it's going to be the holder of all the monsters, the parent. So it doesn't matter what type of monster it is, we can basically give it a parent and actually use this. Okay, and we're going to turn that into an array, and it's going to be instance editable. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is actually, what I want to do is hang on a little second, because we're going to work on string tables, and we're going to basically transfer one string table to another. Okay, so we're taking away from the third person adventure thing and gradually moving everything out of it, but there is a string table where basically all the user interface table, this one here, okay? So we're going to open this up, and it's not got that many in it, okay? So we're going to convert this, and in fact what we'll do is we'll export to CSV, and we'll call it STR UI. Okay, I've never done this before, so if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. We'll worry about that later. Okay, and our next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our string table, right, called stmain, and we're going to import. Okay, and there we go. Open. Now that's actually not done what I wanted it to do. And I think that's went and saved. Yeah, it has. Okay, let's not worry too much about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say item. We're going to have to find the two ones that we actually mucked about with, right? We only had two strings in this table to start with, and they were both to do with the interacts. Okay, so if we look in here, go to the graph. And go to here. This is where the two keys are. Okay. And as you can see, we need this, need key. So it actually tells us there what key we actually need. Right, so we go in here, we'll check this again, and it says need key. So all we do is we say need key, and you require a key. Okay, save that, go back to our interact, and you'll notice this is now correct. And we've got one more to do now, and it's need item. So need item, you require an item. Save that, and that is us up to date. And the next thing we need to do is so we can test that, right? If we go up to this door, you require a key. You require item type needed, fuel. Okay. So that is that. Now, the thing I want to do next is I want to add the self-discussion thing. So what we're going to do is wait for Kent. So Kent can let me know when he comes into the chat, hopefully. Hey, my colleague. Right, we're ready to go now. I think there's a little bit of a bug fix required on the self-discussion when I was thinking about it, right? But Kent can basically start deleting all his self-discussion things. Right? in a minute. So what we'll do is that this is just our test, right? And what we're going to do is, right, this is the time that it, after it's triggered, that it actually works, right? This is the part that I don't think is quite wrong, right? Now, we only use the disable player if it's the starting one, so we only use that ever once, okay? Now, for the messages themselves, all we need to do is basically fill in this data table, okay? So, say we wanted 2 things to play, right? Well, all we need to do is add 2 new rows, right? We don't care what these are really. This isn't a triggering factor. But we give this the number, let's say 2. So that's going to be the first message, right? And this is also going to be message number 2, but this is going to be ordered 2. Okay, and this, the first one, is going to be ordered 1. Okay, and then we basically just put our message in here. So we just type in this is our test message number 1. Okay, and then in this one we end with test message 2. Okay, we save that. That's us done. Right? And then what we can do is, in here for the message number, it's 2. Okay? Now, when we run this, you'll see that this is empty at the moment, right? But it is going to fill up. So if we click on that, it hasn't filled up. But that's okay. We are bug testing, right? Now, where the hell was it? It was over here beside this bed, wasn't it? Let's see if it actually does anything. I'll need to place it better so that I know where it actually is, because I'm an idiot. Right? It's actually at the side of the bed there. Right, so I'll probably run right past it. Okay. So let's try and trigger it. Now that should have triggered it, but as I said, I didn't reach it. I didn't actually reach that there. I actually don't think it's going to work anyway, right? Because right, so we definitely ran past it there, right? But that's okay. I'm cool with that, because that's what I thought would happen. Because the first one only actually fires right. So this is actually wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our breakpoint. Now, this is like remnants of the original code that fired. Now, the strange thing is, this should have worked. Yeah. If this is false, it doesn't do anything. Right? Now, it shouldn't do that. But this is why this needed testing. Because basically, this code should actually be over here. We only want to do this if we disable the player, right? Because that means that it's basically the start of the game. Okay. I'm glad I decided to actually go through this because I hadn't really tested this on the standalone use. Right. Hi Stormrun, how you doing? I'm going to have to fix this, Kent, because this isn't quite right, the way this is working. Right, I'm thinking I'm going to have to put a custom event here. And it's actually going to have to be obviously triggered, right? Which is what I wasn't doing. There was the original code here. Right, so if I say no, actually I think we're about ready to fix it. I'm just going to do a custom event here, and I'm going to call it trigger messages. Okay. And that is going to go up there. And we're going to say trigger Yeah, no worries. As I said, I knew I had to test it because I knew there was a couple of little things not quite right yet, but I really did want to show you. Right, but if this is the part that it wasn't loading, right? But if you trigger it, if I put the trigger messages here, right? Now, we already know that the pawn is good at this point anyway. Right, this is only if we're doing it at the start of the game. So that's okay. But in here now, we're just going to say trigger messages. Okay. I have no idea how to pronounce your name, but I've got no idea what a GTX 1660 Ti is like. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm going to say I'm sure it'll be fine. Right, so now we should be able to do something. Okay, maybe not. Let's have a look at the breakpoint. And we better check the collision on this just in case. Overlap all. Overlap only pawn. Gonna go with that. Right, try that again, shall we? What? Ah, right, okay. We don't want that breakpoint. Run, 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 run. There we go. Okay. Right, resume. Right, so let's have a look at this. Right, you can see we've now got our messages. Right, we've got the right thing, we're just not displaying it, right, which is cool. So basically we should be setting show messages. Add to viewport. Okay. Wait a minute. I could try. Or I could just go right next to the microphone, because I don't know, the gain button on the mic's on the back side, so I don't know if I'm actually turning the gain up or I'm turning it down. Or I could try it there. That's better. Right. So the problem is we're not creating the widget, right? If we do it that way. So I actually don't want the trigger there. Right? I actually want the trigger over here. Let's try that, shall we? Right, off we go. Boom. Then we create the widget. Doobie-doo. Are you going to show? Right. You've been a dipstick, aren't you? Right. I'm going to try something here. We're going to go with a 2-second delay, and we're going to find out it never did this. Right, and we'll check out what the delay is on this. So we'll add a breakpoint here. Delay time should be 2 seconds. It shouldn't really matter. Don't know why this is working, but anyway. Should really bring this closer so I don't need to run away over there, but anyway. And I should really take that breakpoint off, to be honest. Disable breakpoint. Resume. Okay, that's good. We're going to drag this down a bit so we can see. Resume. Now this should be 2, which is. This should be 2. So we should be doing this. Resume. This is our show messages. We have our current widget. Step over. There we have our widget. Okay. Messages is 2. What? What are you on about? That's 2. Ah, okay. Right, so there's our test message number 1. We end with test message number 2. Perfect. Now, why didn't that work last time? I don't know. Unreal Engine being a bit of a joker, I suppose. And there we go. Okay, so that's how you do it, Kent. You just put them in. I would say put this delay time to like 1 or something. Now I can delete these after they've been used if we want, right? And I can set up a different option for like, well, right, so that's cool. Right, resume. 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 There we go. So there you go, you can have as many messages as you want, right? And then we obviously triggered it again. We're not disabling movement in this one, so that's okay, right? And as you can see, right, so I'm waiting for 14. Right, now if we go and look, where'd the spawner go? What happened to our spawn? Ah, okay. Well, whatever. Right, now, as you can see, the point of this, Kent, was so that you can remove all of the pointless ones, right? And whatchamacallit, at the start point, and just do it with one. Okay, so it tidies the code up a lot. Now you'll see here that at 10 AM our monsters will disappear. Right? And there we go. Right, now at 2 PM they should actually spawn in. So just give it a second or two. Come on, 1400. We've got speed run, this time running at like something ridiculous. Right. Oh, I'm an idiot. Right. This here, minimum number of monsters is going to be 1. Max is, let's say, 5. Right? And for this one, if we wanted a set number of monsters, we just do 1 and 1. Okay, now I'm going to have to change the spawner slightly. Right? I'm not finished with this. It isn't going to look like this in the end, right? but this just gives you an idea. So we're going to edit that. And it's not in there. It's in our event manager. And that is our event manager there, which I need to do a billboard for. Right, so what we want is integer range, right, and it's going to be min and max, and that is going to go in last index. Okay, so that's going to give us a random between the whatever I put in it. I can't remember what I put in it, right? But we can have a look in a second. So it's this volume here. So it's between 1 and 5, right? Now, to let you know how this is working, basically what it does is it picks an X and Y, then shoots a line trace down, and wherever it hits the ground, then I shoot a line trace from there X amount above and fire it, hi Thomas and hi Farzad, straight at the player. If it hits the player, then I try again 5 times. And if I don't manage to hit if I don't manage to hit something else that's not the player, then I don't spawn. If I hit something else, that means the player can't see me and therefore I spawn. Okay, so we shall try that again as we finish off our spawner, and I'll show you it actually spawning, and then I shall show you it not spawning. Again, 10 o'clock, these monsters will disappear. That's being done by the event manager, being controlled by the weather and the timer. Okay, so we'll just have to hang on a second. I can have a sip of my coffee. Right, are we there yet? Nearly. Right, we'll hide round this corner so that these spawn. And then I'll quickly show you when it doesn't do it. Okay, you see the arrows? That's it trying to find me. And if it hits something else first, then they will spawn. So you'll see that they have spawned. Okay, we've got 2 spawnies. Right. Now the interesting one is if we actually run over here, you will see it basically trying to spawn lots of monsters, or between 1 and 5, right? It's going to, and then they're going to try and spawn 5 times, right? Yeah, it's ray casting. No, it's not ray casting. It's ray tracing. No. Sorry, yes, it's line tracing. Yeah, I've just got a debug on just to see where they're hitting, okay? So You'll see a whole crap load of lines in a minute. When it tries to find a position for them. There you go. Right now, strangely, that shouldn't have worked. Right, this is the problem I was having last night. Right. Because this line tracing doesn't seem to be working right. Right, that part's okay. It's this part here. Now, the other actors that we want to actually ignore, we want to ignore base monsters, basically. Right, that's an interesting one. Now that's done in, Thomas, that's done in the animation blueprint. I might have to use a different type of line trace here. Hi Screen Apple, how are you? Oh, I need to run around here, eh? The whole point is for it. See, the problem is, when it's hitting my player, it's not registering, right? And that's why you see the none thing. You'll see if she turns and faces into the wind that she raises her hand up, right? But that's controlled in the animation blueprint. Right, so there we go. You see, it's tried 5 times for each of them, so it actually tried to spawn 3, but it failed, right? So it didn't spawn any, so that worked correctly, okay? Now, there should be a guy, possibly, you see, over here, but it doesn't look as if they hit, even though they hit the ground, it didn't actually fire, trigger the ray trace, hit, right? So it didn't spawn those either. So we want to hide round this corner again, just to test this one more time. That's not one of those monsters, by the way, in case you were wondering. Yeah, I've done all that, Midgard. It seemed to decide... It seems to be a funny one whether it decides to work or not, to be honest. It was actually working last night, but it seems to have decided it ain't going to work today. Right. So these should have spawned. Right? But the thing is, they didn't. Right? And that's because of the line trace type. Okay? That's because it's set to the camera. It should be set to visibility. Right? And it shouldn't ignore anything, to be honest. Because all we're doing is checking what we hit, right? And if it's the player, then basically we don't spot. If it is the player, then we try again, right? If it isn't the player, then basically we're hidden so we can play, so we can actually place ourselves, right? But for some unknown reason, to me, we aren't colliding. I mean, we could line trace for objects. We don't want to do that, because we actually want to do the opposite of that. Maybe want to do that. Let's see what this gives us. Profile name. It's not offset at all. The numbers are all calculated, right? So I'm basically just drawing a line from where I think I'm going to spawn to the player, the centre of the player. It doesn't actually matter, right? But for some reason it isn't hitting our player, or it doesn't think it is. Right? And the camera, it isn't doing it at all. Right? The easiest way to do this, right, is to do a print string, right? And you'll see what it hits and what it doesn't hit. Okay, now if it hits the VH03, that means it's hit the house, right? And it's actually not there, we want it. Duh. Yeah, I'm actually not line tracing between two objects. I'm line tracing between a point where I might spawn and the player. Right, so this should go in here, and then our hit actor should go in here. Okay. Now the strange thing is, as I said, in fact, let's make this even simpler, right? We'll say maximum number of monsters 1 and minimum 1. So we only get one monster spawning. So it's going to give us, it's only going to basically hit once, right? So that there's no confusion. Oh, I'm going to have to stop it again because it's not going to show for long enough. Right, so if we say 20, we'll compile that, we'll change the window, we'll go to widget reflector so that you guys can see this a bit better. Do that, press play. Right, so should really change the time, shouldn't I? Anyway, I transfer sipping on my coffee, which is now bloody cold. Yeah, we're going to change the time. Right, so you can see it hit VHO3, okay? So, if that's the case, they should have spawned. Right? So that spawned, and there's one over here that spawned. Okay, so that worked perfectly well. Now I'm going to change ultra dynamic sky. And two, 22. I'm going to go for that, I hope. Don't know if that'll work. Okay. Well, we'll soon find out. Right, I'm guessing these guys will still disappear at... Okay, I don't know what time they'll disappear actually. Do they still disappear at 10? Yep. Question is, Are these going to appear at 12? Apparently not. Ah, there we go. So that one apparently hit me. But still. Right, that one hit me. Right, but it didn't return the actor. Right, so that must be something to do. Right, that's bizarre. That's the only answer I can give there. Alright. So, I'm going to put this back before I forget. We're going to change the time on that to 10. May as well make it do doubly as quick since we're having to wait anyway. Right, so let's have a look at that again, right? And if we go here, come on, hurry up. You see? One of them hit the landscape, but the one that hits me doesn't register as hitting me. So, yeah. Okay. Right, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm going to go for a cigarette. So if you enjoy the stream, hit like and subscribe, do all that stuff. Check out the description for links to the game's Discord, my personal Discord, plus Patreon and previous game on Steam. I shall be back shortly. Okay, we are back. So, I can only think right, that just gives you the time and the colours. There's something weird going on here, so I'm thinking there's something in the collision of the pawn that it's stopping it colliding with that. Right? So I'm not necessarily going to change this here in case I screw things up, but let's have a look at the collisions here in the pawn itself. It's a custom. Visibility, ignore, camera, block. Now, there was a reason why some of this was set up like this. I can't exactly remember what it was, but there was a reason. Right, so if that's the case, okay, then our VH1, if we set that up to block the camera, right, these are set to default. And that's set to block the camera as well. Just put that back to default, right? So, just for a giggle, if I put this back to camera, right, we're going to mess about with that in a minute, see if that makes any difference, right? But theoretically, this should work, right? Because our building is set to block and our player is set to block on that channel. Right? You can see it there. And we can see the hit BP pawn, right? But you can see that the house did not block the camera, right? Because they all hit me, so they went straight through the house. So there's the issue, right? If we put it on visibility, then it ignores the pawn, right? Because the pawn is set to ignore visibility, right? If we set it to the camera, it appears that this blueprint basically we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So it would appear if we do that and we block camera, compile that and try it again, this is another one of these weird Unreal Engine settings thing that you just need to play about with and get it what it's expecting. Alright, so interesting. So at 1400 this should hit VH3, but it's still hitting me. The line traces are basically hitting me. Well, we could turn the logic on its head, right? And well, right, okay. The interesting thing here, right, we're going to turn this back. No, we're going to leave it there. Or, no, wait a minute, we're going to turn it back, right? And we're going to see visibility. Okay, now, this is where it's going to cause us an issue. Right, but what we really want to see here is what it's actually hit. Okay, if it hits something and we don't get anything, if we don't get an actor, right, that means it's hit the player. Okay, So we could do the logic that way. Okay? So I shall show you what I mean. Right, so if we go over to here and we wait, and we hit something, right? So you'll notice that we've hit something, but it's nothing. Okay? You'll notice that, oh, apparently we've hit a rock. We've hit the landscape. Which kind of makes sense. Resume that. Resume that. Okay. That still doesn't kind of work. Or rather it does. Because the one on the right hit the landscape. The one on the left did not. Okay? And remember, we only draw the line trace to the character. Or to the pawn. Right? So what we can basically say here is, we can say is valid, right? If it isn't valid, we do this, and if it is valid, we do this. Oopsie. If it is valid, we do that. Okay, so if we hit nothing between the player and the line trace, then we're good, right? So we kind of reverse that around. And in fact, we could probably just use this, to be fair. If we hit something, we do this. If we don't, we do this. Sorry, if we hit something, we do this. If we don't, we do this. Right, but the is valid one will work just as well for the moment. Okay. So we can basically sod off around this corner and get a drink of my coffee while we're doing this. Right. And there we go. Right. They didn't spawn. Well, actually, the guy over the hill should have spawned. Right, there should be a guy over here somewhere. And there he is. Right. And the proof of the pudding is, if we hide in a corner here, we should get spawn. Right, so there's our 2 attempted spawns. So we've got our guy up there, and then we'll have the guy over there. Okay, there's our 2 spawns. Now we can look again at our spawners, right, and we can go 1 to 5. Save that, and we'll do it once more. Right. We'll see how this runs now while while we're waiting on this to do it, which will just take a couple of seconds. Remember to hit that subscribe button. I'm over 750 now. Let's get to 800 if we can. It's going to take a week or two, but you know, we'll get there. There we go. We spawned, I believe, 2 up there, and there we go. 1 over the hill. So we used its own logic against it. Okay. And we shall do that. Okay, so just a little explanation here of how this works. Well, since we've been looking at it for so long, right? Basically, it gets all the volumes, these things here, which are the spawn areas, if you were to like put lines round about it and shoot them straight down, right? It only selects ones that are within a certain range of the player, so there's no point in spawning something miles away, right? So that does this, right? So it basically finds out a distance, and if it's less than 10,000, we add it to the places that it can spawn. Okay, then we loop around them and we check what the number of monsters that are going to spawn in that area is. Right, we set a few variables up. Then what we do is we get a random position on the XY of this volume, right? And then basically what we do is we shoot a line straight down, okay, and find out where the ground is. Then we get that point, we add 120, 128 to that to move it up off the ground, right? So we're at about head high or whatever, and then we shoot a line directly to our player at relatively head height, and then this fires that trace. Then we check if what we hit is a valid actor, right? We don't need this anymore. If it is a valid actor, then we can spawn. If it's not, then we've basically hit nothing, right? Which means fundamentally we've hit the player, right? Because we know that the visibility is off on the camera, so if it does hit her, now remember, it is firing the line trace only to her, right? It doesn't keep going, right? So if it doesn't hit anything, then we're basically hitting her, okay, our character, and therefore we can't spawn, right? So it goes through here, and then it tries to do it 5 times, and if it fails for the 5th time, it just basically says, ah, forget it, don't spawn me, okay? And that's how it basically works, right? So we can delete that, and this is the part that's going to spawn, okay? This is going to get changed slightly, but it'll work, because in our spawn volume, right, what we actually want to do is we're going to spawn a base monster, right? And then this is going to be made up of monster types, right? But what we need to do for our first one, our base monster is basically an empty class, right? Whose parent is a character, right? And this is basically the same thing, except it's actually the monster, right? So what we actually want to do here is reparent this to BP base monster, okay? So when we do that, okay, we can go into our event manager. No, we don't. We're going to our spawn volume, right? And we'll do it in the game. So here's our spawn volume, right? And what we can do is add our Parazombie 01, right? Now, let's just check we can do this, because we want to go into our event manager now. And what we want to do is basically we get our monster type. Now we would obviously randomize this. And that would go to there. Okay. Hi, Castle Gaming, how are you, mate? Right. So that allows my colleague to select the monsters he wants in any particular volume. Okay. So I've only built one at the moment, but you get the point. Okay. So we're going to need to do the same for this one. We say Parazombie 01. Save that. Press play. As I said, this is just future proofing it for easy placement and easy spawning in monsters of different types, etc. Right, so where are we? There we go. We got our two monsters. Did they spawn? Yes, they did. So there we go. Pretty cool, huh? There we go. So now, with that all working, we can go back here and we're going to switch off the line trace because we know that it's working now. Okay. Now, the interesting thing here, we may as well finish this off. So we're going to get length. We're going to say -1. Then int range 0 to there. Then that's going to go there. That's going to go in there. And we now have a random monster spawner, depending on how many monsters you have. Okay. The status of the game. Coming along, I think it's the best way to put it. More things get added every day. Right. So we can now see that our self-discussions work, our spawning works, everything cool, working. So let's have a look at what we did earlier and check it out. Isn't that cool? Beautiful. We've just spawned some guys over up the back there somewhere. We must have been in full view, but this guy spawned, so that's okay. It was working fine. Right. So now we have a really boring job to do. Right, which is going to be a whole load of fun, but I'm going to just do the last. Just going to do a little bit on stream. If you noticed earlier, when we basically did our string table and exported the one from TPSAT, right? The problem is that our main menu, etc., is kind of using it, which is obviously not a good thing for us. Okay, so like all of these things, the ones that I've actually done are coming from this TPSAT, and what we want it to come from is there. What was that? Continue. And you'll notice there's not a continue. That's awesome. Journal keybinds, low quality. Need key? No. Can anybody see? And continue. Because I can't. Right, let's have a look in here again, right? This was in the user interface, right? So I'm guessing it must have been in one of the others. Right? Interactive items. Right? Okay, well, whatever. Guess we need to open the string table. Not a big deal. This actually his game is better than my prototype game. What prototype game is that? Continue. Save that. Go back here. ST main. Continue. New game. TP sat button menu new game. Okay, so this should be here then. ST main. That was there. Right, so this continue was there. It's just the fact that it was under button menu continue. Okay, whatever. We just need to basically go through these and sort them out. So this is button menu again, right? Button menu load game. Right, manage data. Okay, so that's definitely not there. Right, this actually makes for easier localization if you do these in string tables and data tables. Right. Manage data. And where's that one? Options. Button menu options. Options. Quick game. Button menu. Quick game. Okay. We never see that, but anyway, so we'll save that. Now the interesting thing here is we've got to do the options, right? But we have to open the actual options thing. Button menu options. Okay. Gameplay. Options. Gameplay. Okay. ST. Options. Gamepad. Gameplay. Options graphics. Options graphics. Right, so we need options audio, options keybinds. It's actually just in there. I probably added that. Right, but we do need an audio, which is there, and it's options audio. Options audio. Now I don't know what this is. Have we got it back? Don't know. Let's have a look. We do. Cool. Right. Now we basically need to change these. This was options general language. And that. Then these. Yeah. We need to work on that one. Right? But the point being that basically we need to go through the widget switcher. And change these. Okay. So this is quality preset. Resolution. This is view distance. And this one is shadow quality. This is one of these jobs, guys, that sometimes you just got to get it done. Not the most thrilling, but it just needs to be done. Pretty sure we just did shadow quality. Let's just check. Yep. Light quality. Yeah, will do. ST, and that was controls. Ah. I don't get what that one is. Oh, it's not that. It was under options, wasn't it? Oh, it was light. Light quality, that's what it was. Texture quality. Right, texture quality. Right, anti-aliasing. Right, the reason I've changed these is because I don't want to mix and match, right? I've already added some to this, okay, to our one for the needing the key, blah blah blah, right? And then if we want to do, we don't want to be mixing between two different string files or string tables for exactly the same, you know, like in the menus, we want one centralized place for it. What? Damn it. Now I've forgotten what that was. Can I undo that? Yeah, post-processing. Okay. See, you guys put me off there. Post-processing. Effects quality. Foliage quality. Right, cool. Save that. Save all. And now all we need to do is the music one. And then all we need to do is this one. The key binding one. But that, we'll need to add the key binding ones. But that's okay. We'll sort this out. But on that, guys, I'm going to carry on with this off stream. So, if you've enjoyed the stream, hit like and subscribe. I'll be back 8 PM Central, and we'll continue working on this. So, check out the description, guys, for links to the Discord server, to also my personal Discord server, my Patreon, and my previous game on Steam. And with that, guys, thank you guys for watching. See you later. Bye bye for now.